correct balance between fiscal and social responsibility. The headline numbers for the 2020-2021 budget, national budget, are a revenue target of $1.122 billion, current expenditure excluding debt service of $935.6 million, debt service of $121.4 million, and capital expenditures of $85 million. These numbers yield a projected deficit of $19.8 billion for fiscal 2020-21. Revenues are forecast to rise by a modest 0.3% or $3.7 million. There are modest tax adjustments, transportation infrastructure tax on cruise ship passengers, and an across-the-board 5% increase in immigration fees. You're providing payroll tax relief to lower-paid workers. This will put money into the pockets of 75% of the employees in Bermuda. Also, there is payroll tax relief for small and medium-sized businesses to allow them to expand their employee base. To assist with job creation, we are also extending the payroll tax relief incentive for job creation to employers with a payroll of over $500,000. To enhance efficiency, we will be expanding the taxi industry payroll tax scheme to all persons with public service vehicles. We will also be assisting the retail sector with further duty relief and amending the process for duty deferrals. Finally, there will be no biannual fee increase to shelter persons from further cost of living increases. The national budget allocates $1.141 billion in total spending over the next 12 months, representing a $30.9 million or 2.8% increase over 2019-2020 original estimates. There's a modest increase in current account spending of $5.7 million or 0.6%. There's no increase in real terms. There will be a $20.3 million increase in capital funding to maintain our infrastructure after years of underinvestment. Debt service costs will be $121.4 million. The increase in debt service is mainly due to borrowing for the Carolines Bay project. The current account balance before interest on debt and capital expenditure is budgeted to be at a surplus of $186.6 million. The government plans to run, as I said earlier, a budget deficit of $19.8 million. The deficit will be funded with long-term borrowing. Borrowing is in line with one of our fiscal rules that net borrowing can only be considered to finance capital spending. Net debt will stand at $2.678 billion. This is still an unsustainable level, so we must keep our fiscal discipline while at the same time helping our people, striking the correct balance. We have reintroduced zero-based budgeting to assist with cost containment. This has assisted the ministries and government with policy prioritization during the budget process. Additionally, the budget provides enhanced and expanded services for the vulnerable. In the Ministry of Legal Affairs, we provided funding for operational programs for young people too old for children's facilities and increased grant funding. In the Ministry of Health, we provided funding for community mental health programs and also increased grant funding. And in the Ministry of Education, we provided funding for enhanced student behavior management services, education therapists, and counseling services. We've increased investments in education and training. The Bermuda College will continue to receive a $250,000 grant to assist students with financial need to ensure that no student is prohibited from attending Bermuda College as a result of limited household incomes. $2.1 million in the fiscal year 2019-2020 for the funding of incentives that support the execution of Plan 2022. And Workforce Development has received increased funding for their scholarship budget from $100,000 to $450,000 and increased their budget for apprenticeships by $25,000 to $420,000. This has been a much needed increase in capital spending to revitalize the country's infrastructure, support growth, create jobs, and improve our quality of life. We'll be upgrading the Parliament building and relocating courts, at a cost of $3.2 million, providing other major building upgrades at the cost of $3.1 million, school maintenance of $3 million, roadworks of $2.8 million, and capital acquisitions provisions of about $24.9 million, of which $9.1 will be spent on IT development across government. Another $4.4 will be spent on buses and another $2 million on ferries. This budget also provides information on government is seeking to reduce the cost of living by providing mortgage relief for families with the creation of a mortgage guarantee program, healthcare reform to reduce premiums, and tackling electricity costs as we did with the LED bulb exchange program. And we'll also be supporting startup cooperatives who are looking for ways to supply food at lower prices. I'd like to thank the Ministry of Finance staff for their stellar work on helping to put together this budget. It is a fiscally prudent budget, one that ensures that all Bermudians benefit while we grow Bermuda's economy. Thank you.
You mentioned that this budget was designed to provide relief to those who needed it. But my question is, where is the sacrifice in this budget? Where is the funding going to come from for the community clubs and for the $1 million for revitalization in St. George's?
Well, Jasmine, as I said earlier, the deficit of $19.8 million will be funded through borrowing. So everything else above that will be funded out of the revenue that the government generates over the course of the fiscal year.
You also mentioned that the BTA will be restructured. Do you anticipate job cuts there?
No, I would rather that the Minister of Tourism and Transport speak to that. But what I did say on Friday is that we're going to refocus the activities of the BTA to focus on tourism, development, and marketing, sales development and marketing.
That would exclude everything else that they're currently doing.
So their remit will be narrowed to help focus it. I think the comment that I made on Friday was that we have seen an increase in overall visitors, most of them coming from cruise ships. There's been a decline in air arrivals, and the preference for the country, for hotels and the rest of the economy is to get the higher value air visitor as opposed to more and more cruise ship passengers. I think we probably have reached near capacity on cruise ship passengers. So the strategy needs to be focused on how do we get more air visitors here.
And speaking of the 60-40 changes, some have criticized it as not making much of a difference. Do you anticipate that change being impactful on the business community?
Well, yes, Jasmine, last year I predicted a surplus, and I kind of missed it a little bit. So I'm not going to get into predicting business. What I will say is this. As the Minister of Finance, I have fairly broad discretion on the granting of exemptions to the 114B rule, which is the 60-40 rule. I've seen no great path of people with ideas looking for exemptions to the existing law. We have reset the threshold, taking it from 40% up to 60%. I'm hopeful that it will encourage some activity, but we still stand here ready, willing, and able to welcome new business here and be supportive of that.
You were at the budget breakfast today held by the Chamber of Commerce. Was this budget well received by business?
I would say, based on the reception in the room, it was fairly well received. This is my second budget, of course, and I think similar to last year's one, people were pleased with it. They thought it was balanced.
And was there any particular concern about the 5% increased immigration fees? Was that expressed as a concern?
I didn't get any expressions of concern around that. Now, I would say this. In 2020, the government was due for its biennial review of fees. The last one was done in 2018. The policy is every 2 years. We've elected not to do it this year. In 2018, across-the-board fee increases were put into place of around 5%. So had we went ahead with doing the fee increase, the immigration fees would have been subject to a 5% increase anyway. It's the only one that we decided to do because of the work that they're doing inside of immigration, and we need to fund some of the work that they're doing to make the operations of the immigration department more efficient.
Good afternoon, Minister.
Good afternoon.
To paraphrase something from the budget, you said Caroline Bay, you saw the money that was being sent there as being recouped by the government down the road. Is there anything you can provide details on how you see that coming to fruition?
No, so we have, there's a fairly encyclopedic set of documents around Caroline Bay. One of those documents is called a reimbursement agreement. And I guess that agreement was drafted in contemplation of what happens if things go sideways. So the construct in place today is we are, by contract, duty bound to get our money back. Whether it's resuscitating the project and it being successful, realizing some degree of success, or something more draconian. We are working with the developers right now, trying to figure out what the best way forward is. But I've been very clear with the people of Bermuda and with the developers. We want our money back.
Immigration. I know obviously it doesn't fall under your specific agreement. Do you have any insight on whether immigration reform legislation is forthcoming? And if not, can you talk a little bit about what the greater need for immigration reform as it relates to Bermuda's economy is?
You're right, immigration is not my remit.
Yeah.
However, having said that, I know that it has been an issue front and center for the Minister of National Security over the course of my 15 months as being a member of the cabinet. Immigration is a very complex, emotive issue in Bermuda, not just Bermuda, kind of around the world. And it needs to be done in a way that is sensitive to all the concerns expressed by various stakeholders. It's difficult to do. And I think the minister, over the course of the time that he's had this portfolio, which I think is as long as I have been the Minister of Finance, because I think the cabinet change was announced on November the 1st of 2018, has been working this issue really hard, trying to be sensitive to all the various stakeholders. I'm confident that in the coming weeks, something will materialize, we table something. But I don't want to get ahead of the minister in terms of forecasting kind of what his exact timing is going to be.
Speaking from the economic side of things, does Bermuda need more people?
I think if Bermuda needs more activity and if more people lead to more activity, then yes.
Question related to Ministry of Legal Affairs. A colleague of mine asked me to run this night. I guess you spoke of an allocation of a portion of the Ministry of Legal Affairs increase in funding to the psychoeducational program. Does this represent a renewed commitment to the use of the overseas therapeutic facilities?
My remarks on Friday, I think I spoke to there being instances where the capabilities currently in place in Bermuda were not sufficient to support the needs of various children. And so inasmuch as there are children with needs that can't be met here, I think the minister has to consider other options. And inasmuch as psychoeducational off-island is a potential solution for those challenges, then they need to be considered.
And I'm hoping for a clarification on the transitional living regime, which was said to be for people who are too old for the care of the Department of Family Services, i.e. those who have aged out at 18. Why does it feature in the Ministry of Legal Affairs budget and not Ministry of Health? I guess because the people involved would presumably be over the age of 18.
Well, I think those of you who know our Attorney General knows that she has a deep concern for young people. And I don't think any thought was given to kind of what the various boundaries are across ministries. I think and I'm taking some liberty here, speaking on behalf of the Attorney General. I think the notion that these children are in her care and then age out, I think has prompted her to kind of move forward with a solution to kind of provide some assistance. The last thing I think any of us would want, and I don't particularly think anyone cares, whether it's in health or legal affairs, is to be turning out 18-year-olds on the street who don't have a place to stay. We don't want to be in the business of creating homelessness and all the problems that come along with that. And so I think that this is an effort to get ahead of the situation that we found actually starting to begin to happen.
Sorry, just one question regarding the amendments to the sugar tax.
Yes.
When it was first introduced, it was sold as a method to reduce sugar consumption, which leads to obesity, and it was meant to drive up more education in the school system. However, now you're telling us that that cash is going to go towards other industries in terms of being reinvested into debt and other ways. Like, was that always the intention of the government?
I don't think that I said anything about debt. I think I spoke to other social programs that had raised high on the priority list. I think we all kind of start out with kind of a set of intentions. The reality of kind of operating governments, that things happen and that you need to be flexible enough to kind of adapt to deal with those things that happen. What you see here is that there are some other programs that need to be funded, and in an era of constrained funding, I have been somewhat tough on my colleagues around the ability to kind of increase spending, as evidenced by the less than 1% increase, and that was, I can tell you, a bit of a battle, trying to get folks more money. So we just kind of trying to focus the dollars, those precious dollars, on those things that require the most attention. We have also said that we're going to take another look at the sugar tax because we don't think that it's being applied as was intended. We think it's being widely applied across the whole basket of goods as opposed to specific sugar products. And so we're having another look at that to make sure that we can kind of tighten it up a bit.
Your grocery store owners consulted before making amendments to the sugar tax?
No.
Is there a reason for that?
No reason. We have seen and I think misapplication is probably a bit too strong a word. We've seen that the tax has not been applied the way that we thought it should have been applied. So we're going to go back and address that.
Any further questions? Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you for coming.